Hi, we're going to be looking at the builder pattern and how to use it in Symfony 7. So if we head over to the code, as we can see here, we have a Symfony 7 project running on our server. And if I just go over to the project here, we can see I've got a skeleton project, and I've not done anything to this except add in the .env.local file. That's it. And if we go into the source, there is nothing being added here. We need to create a new entity. So we'll say bin console make entity. And we're going to call this entity vehicle. Now I'll add a bunch of properties to the vehicle entity. I'm not going to waste your time with it. And I'll show you what I've got afterwards. I've created the vehicle entity. It has an ID, a manufacturer, a model, a VIN number, engine type, a transmission type, doors, seats, drive type, horsepower, color, and fuel type, and a created at. In the created at, it's been set in the constructor, and we have a constructor argument here, and that's it. Also, something to note, I've given it a UUID instead of an integer ID. Right, okay, so now onward and upward. What we want to do is we want to create a service directory, and inside of here we want to create a vehicle builder, like so. And inside of here we can say we want to have a director. We also want to have a contract. And lastly, we want to have a builder. Okay, so we'll start off by inside of the contract directory by creating a vehicle builder interface. Like so. Okay, inside of this interface, what we're going to do is we're going to create all the setters for the properties that we defined here. Okay, so I've added all of those properties. Now, what we also want to add in here is we want to add in a reset method, which will return void. And then we also want to add in a get object method, which will return a vehicle, like so. And that's it for the interface. We will now create the actual vehicle builder. If we go into the builder directory, and in here we can say vehicle builder, like so. And this will implement the vehicle builder interface that we just created. We can add all of those stubs, like so. Okay, inside of here, what we need to do is we need to create a private property with the type of vehicle, like that. Then inside of here, when we call the reset, we need to say this vehicle equals new vehicle, like so. Then inside of the get object method, what we need to do is we need to define the vehicle, like so, which is this vehicle. And then we need to call this reset method that we just defined, and then finally we need to return the vehicle. What this does is it clears out the object here so that it's an empty object for the next time after we call this method. Okay, moving on. So now inside of these setter methods, what we need to do is we need to say this vehicle set manufacturer, like so. And we need to do this for all of the other setters, which I will do now. And there we go. As you can see, I've defined all of the setters. Right, let's move on. So lastly, what we need to do is we need to create a director. So this is going to be a vehicle director, like so. And we can mark this as final. And inside of here, we are going to define the concrete methods that we will actually call. So for example, I'm going to say make Land Rover, and this will return a vehicle. but it will also accept a vehicle builder interface, like so. And in the body of this method, we can call the vehicle builder reset. And now we can start to define the things on this vehicle, like for example that it's a Land Rover, and the fact that the model is going to be a Defender, like so, and so on and so forth. And there we are, we have a Land Rover. Now let's add in another implementation, because the point of the builder pattern is that we have many different options of the object that we're trying to create. In this use case, the vehicle object. So let's create another one. And there we go. We now have make Jaguar F-Type F75 Coupe, which has exactly the same implementation, except the data has changed. Now, the final piece of this pattern is we need to implement it somewhere. So now we're going to create a vehicle controller, which will extend the abstract controller. And then inside of here we create a route, and we will call it vehicle. And it will return a response. In here we can start to create the director. So let's create a director. We'll call it the vehicle director. And this will be new vehicle director, like so. Now, the vehicle director will return a Land Rover, for example. However, if we want to make a Land Rover, we have to pass it the vehicle builder interface, but we don't have one. So what we can do is we can create the constructor, and inside of here we can add a property, the vehicle builder interface, like so. And now we can pass in this vehicle builder. Let's dump out the Land Rover so we can see that everything is working as expected. Let's head over to the application and enter in the URL. And there we go. We are creating a Land Rover using the builder pattern. Now, if we go back and say make Jaguar F-Type, head over to our application once again, hit refresh, and there you go, you can see the data has changed. This example is fine. However, let's go back over to the code and let's imagine that for a moment that we have a lot of different vehicle types or a lot of different brands, which, you know, in real life we do. So how would we handle that situation where we need more than one builder? And let's say the vehicles might change, you know, for example, in this implementation, we're setting all of the setters. Well, what if we want to leave some empty? What if we have relations and we want to create a relation on one of them but leave it blank on another? How would we implement that? Well, let's start by changing the name of this. Let's call this the Land Rover Builder. Okay, and we can do that. Now we'll add in another one and we'll call this the Jaguar Builder, like so. And we can just copy over the code into there, because in this situation the implementation will be the same, but you could change it. So now if we go back over to our controller, we're injecting this vehicle builder interface and everything seems fine. So now if we go over to our application and refresh it, we should get an error, and the error should be that we cannot auto wire the correct service. So now if we go back to our code, what we can do here is we can tell Symfony which service we're wanting to use. So we can use the auto wire attribute, and the service, and in here now we need to choose a service. So we'll call the Land Rover service like so. And I'll just correct that name because it's annoying me, like so. And now we can inject the Land Rover service in here. So we can actually correct the name here and call this the Land Rover service like so. Now we can actually copy that and say the Jaguar. Oh, sorry, not service. It's the builder. My fault. And in here we'll have the Jaguar builder like so, and we change the name to the Jaguar builder. The underlying is complaining that it's not been used. So inside of here we can say make Land Rover, and we can pass in the Land Rover builder service. And then using the same director we can say make Jaguar, and we can pass in the Jaguar builder service, and this should give us a Jaguar like so. So now if we dump out both of these, just double check the errors have gone away, and they have. Excellent. So now if we head over to the application again and we give it a refresh, there we go. We can see both objects are created as expected. And if we imagine that these would have very different functionality or implementation details, then this could be quite powerful. So here's an example of how we can implement the builder pattern in Symfony.